Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we're going to be talking about the Doctor Who magazine contents for issue 597. Obviously, as always, I'm not going to be going over all of the magazine here, only a few bits that have been picked out that I find particularly interesting. This issue in particular actually is one of the most full issues of DWM I've seen in years. There's full-on interviews with various cast members, details of each of the upcoming episodes. Genuinely one of the best issues of DWM I've read. If you get the opportunity, this is only going to be a tiny taste of what is in this magazine. It truly is worth every penny. I have it both behind me and on digital. Go out and support the magazine. But there are a few things that have been spoken about publicly that I want to talk about. So we're going to get right into that. Subscribe if you're new. I do regular Doctor Who content here on the channel. We're only like 60 odd subscribers away from 22,000. Thank you all so much for the support recently. It's been absolutely amazing. But let's just get right into it. We've had the official release by the BBC of some brand new images that are in the magazine. You may have seen a couple of these before via places like SFX. However, these are their first official publication. You've got this one, which is the Doctor in that tunnel. You've got the Wrath Warriors looking absolutely incredible here. The Toymaker in his toy realm on sort of a almost cardboard-esque stage. And then my personal favourite, what I'll probably use for the thumbnail of this video, it's the 14th Doctor heading out of the Tardis, presumably for episode 1 in Camden. I remember this being filmed. The excitement was palpable. Very, very nice images. And we've also got a couple more via Instagram. This is the one from, again, the SFX preview, the blue and sort of green image with David Tennant there, presumably, I'm guessing, while Blue Yonder. And then this one is the Toymaker meeting the Doctor in his toy shop. Love this shot. This shot's fantastic. And yeah, there's a bunch of other images and previews, and we're going to be going over one more in this video, but there's so many images in this month's TVM, it's actually insane. They've really packed it. But the first piece of big news we've got to talk about is new 60th cast members. 4 new 60th cast members have been revealed. Dara Lal as Fudge, John McKay as John Logie Baird, Charlie DeMello as Charles Banerjee, Alexander Devrient as Colonel Ibrahim. So, fun fact for you, Fudge was actually one of the original characters in the original Starbeast comic. He is the kid we see in the trailer who is confronted by a Wrath Warrior. Very cool to see that they've kept that original character in the story. However, judging by the actor, it seems like he's been aged down, or at the very least, like, more appropriately aged. I mean, in the Starbeast comic, they're meant to be teenagers, but he kind of looks a lot older. So maybe that's just a realism thing. But he does look younger than Yasmin Finney, which I find interesting. But John McKay as John Logie Baird is funny because, as we've spoken about before, he actually played John Logie Baird in Nolly, which was RTD's most recent series prior to coming back to Doctor Who, where John Logie Baird was the one to film the first woman on TV, i.e. Nolly herself, who that show is about. So that's very cool. And then obviously we've seen a bit of Colonel Ibrahim, I believe, in the trailers. He's one of the unit soldiers. And then Charles Banerjee is a new character as well. Very excited to see all of these. This was like the first thing you see when you open up the magazine in their like big news segment. However, this is what a lot of people have been talking about. Russell T Davies reveals a timeless connection in Wild Blue Yonder. Speaking to DWM for issue 597, #Whoniverse spoilers, Russell teased, the history of the Flux and the Timeless Child is dealt with very slightly in this episode to acknowledge the brilliant work Chris did and say absolutely it's part of our history as well. This follows Russell's previous assurances in SFX earlier this month. So I've seen a few people talk about this. Personally, when I read the segment, I do think people are being a bit overzealous in this. Essentially, it's on the page talking about Wild Blue Yonder, and Russell T Davies says about how it's essentially the character piece episode for the Doctor and Donna Noble. So I took it to mean that the Doctor was mentioning the stuff that was happening in the years after to confirm that yes, those did happen, i.e. Timeless Child and Flux happened. But I don't think that necessarily means it's going to be key to the plot, like I'm seeing some people suggest. More so, I think it's just him filling Donna in as to what's been going on in his life, since they last met, which I'm fine with, I mean, at the end of the day, I did a whole video a few days ago talking about why we need to move on from the Timeless Child and why I think we want to just carry on with the show. We've just got to carry on, and I feel that way about this. I don't really mind it being acknowledged because it ultimately it did happen, it was on screen, you know, whatever. It's not going to be ultimately plot relevant from what we can tell. So yeah, this doesn't bother me in particular. Russell T Davies also gave a quote about the age disparity for Rose Temple Noble. Obviously, as we know, Rose is intended to be 15. However, the End of Time Part 2 was only 13 years ago. And he confesses here, we slightly fudged the years with Donna, but you mustn't forget that time cloud that descended on Camden in 2017 and dislocated everyone by exactly 8 months and 3 days. We'll tell that story one day. I will come to that in Series 7. So if you want to question Rose's age, fear not, I will take care of it. So yeah, this is quite funny. It's interesting because, as some people have pointed out, the Russell T Davies era actually takes place a couple of years in the future, if I remember correctly, because there's the whole thing of, like, the years being a bit all over the place. So I don't really mind this, but I do find it funny to see RTD's justification for it. I remember a lot of people speculating, oh, what if the months and years don't line up because it's the toy makers doing or something like that. Turns out it was just a bit of a fumble. I appreciate them being honest about it. And RTD did go on to say is that even if they found an actress who could only play, like, age 20, they'd have made it work. Obviously, Yasmin Finney is age 18, but is known for playing younger, playing 15. She did the same thing for Heartstopper, I believe. So, yeah, I don't really mind, though, to be honest. It's such a minor thing, but it is funny to see him be like, a time cloud descended from the world. And he also makes a joke about staying for Season 7, as in 7 series of RTD. Now, do I think that'll happen? No, probably not. He's probably joking. However, it is a funny thing to envisage. There has been a lot of speculation surrounding Wild Blue Yonder, and in fact, even in the issue itself, they are deliberately vague as to what's going on in the story, and there's a lot of redacted parts of the Wild Blue Yonder segment. They even state in the magazine that one of their stated goals was to keep Wild Blue Yonder as on lock as possible, to the point where we only know about 2 of the stars, David Tennant, Catherine Tate. The other 3 are redacted. Now, I've seen people say, oh, is this where we're going to get Matt Smith? Is this going to be where we get Pete Capaldi? From what they said, I don't think that that's what this is setting up. I think it's more likely that we could be getting, you know, flashes to companions, perhaps in moments of hysteria, like I say, maybe Carol Ann Ford, maybe Bernard Cribbins as well, because he's not actually been revealed yet. Obviously, we saw him filming. I don't think it's going to be, oh, here's Matt Smith, here's Peter Capaldi. I don't think that's where this story's going from what I read. It seems to be more of a character-focused piece, you know, with a very different style to it, which I'm very interested to see what he means by that. But yeah, I'm not going to go into this expecting, oh, here's all these Doctor Who cameos. I'm not expecting that. In Doctor Who magazine, David Tennant said Jodie Whittaker told him that she never locked and unlocked the TARDIS with a key. In Wild Blue Yonder, the butt end of 14 Sonic somehow ends up in the keyhole. So yeah, when I read this, I was a little bit confused. There's a really funny segment where it's RTD, Phil Collinson, and David Tennant. And David Tennant finds out that they never used the lock on Jodie's TARDIS, or that, like, they didn't lock it properly. It was mainly mine. And he goes like, Phil, you won't believe this. They didn't use the lock on the TARDIS. And Russell's there like, oh no, what if aliens got in? You know, and then Phil Collinson's like, oh, I'm pretty sure the first Doctor unlocked it with, like, a magic ring at one point. And Russell's like, yeah, with this army. It was so funny to read. Wild that they never actually used the lock on the TARDIS, though. That is bizarre, but it was very funny watching those 3 geek out over that. I thought it was very funny, and there's so many funny little story tidbits in this magazine of that ilk. And then here you can see the shot of the TARDIS with the Sonic poked into the keyhole. Now, I've seen a lot of people speculating as to what this could be. Maybe it's the TARDIS being unlocked with the Sonic. My personal headcanon theory at the moment is that this is the Doctor basically diagnosing the TARDIS, because we see in clips from Wild Blue Yonder that it's kind of got smoke all around it, and it, you know, it runs away. So it seems like there's something wrong with the TARDIS. So I think the Sonic being used to basically jam it inside, and basically like, what's going on? Because if the Doctor can't get inside, if it's being all smoky, that would make sense. That's my guess, but I honestly don't know. But it's cool seeing the Sonic be used for a different thing. I also saw someone speculate that maybe it's being used to heighten the Sonic scanning capability, so it's tapping into the TARDIS's power. That could also work. Let me know what your theories are for that in the comments below. My personal thoughts. Again, I'm not going to show any more images from this magazine beyond that. I just wanted to show that one because it's the most bizarre, and everyone's kind of been talking about it. Tell a slight lie, actually. There is one thing I wanted to cover. Stephen Moffat posted the best Doctor Who stories of all time, and we'll get into the list, but first I just want to read the response from Stephen Moffat, because obviously, as you can see, 2 Peter Capaldi stories enter the top 2. We're going to be getting into the top 10, what I think of the top 10 in just a check. Yay for Team Capaldi. Peter and I are thrilled. Peter says he smiled, but I don't believe him. In gratitude, we're making a new series with our action figures. We're in talks with Rachel T, but she's too expensive after Starbeast. Sadly, Brian M has been poached by my wife. So yeah, this was really funny, and also there was actually like a heartfelt message from Peter Capaldi in the poll section, basically thanking the fans for voting Heaven Sent as #1. And as lovely as that all is, and it is lovely, I do have some bones to pick with this top 10 list. I mean, I'm a Doctor Who fan, of course. I have preferences. So, from bottom up, Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, personally, that wouldn't quite break my top 10. It's good. It's really good. You know, it's a Moffat at its peak, Series 4. It's great guns, great stuff. But given how many other Moffat scripts are already on there, we've got Blink, Day of the Doctor, World of Time, Dr. Falls, Heaven Sent. I would probably say I prefer something like Waters of Mars or maybe Midnight over Silence in the Library, Forest of the Dead, personally. Remembrance of the Daleks and City of Death, I don't really have any issue with. It's nice to see a late 80s story get ranked this highly because that doesn't tend to happen. And obviously Remembrance is one of the best Dalek stories ever told, in my opinion, so it more than deserves its spot. As in my opinion does City of Death. I think I said in a recent video, I watched it the other day, had an absolute blast with it, so I can totally understand why it's here. Human Nature, Family of Blood is also one I don't have much issue with. I know some people, you know, have their issues with that story these days. Personally, for me, it still holds up just as well as it did when it came out, so I've got no issues there. These next two, though, are where my issues kind of come in. Look, Blink is good. Like, really good. But I don't think, and this might be a hot take, I don't think it's one of the best of all time. I don't. I think it's really well done, and it's a really cool concept. But there are Doctor Who episodes that I think are stronger, and there are Doctor Who episodes I prefer. In fact, here's my hot take. I kind of prefer Matt Smith's first Weeping Angel story over Blink. I know that's a hot take, but it's something I genuinely feel. Number 5 being Day of the Doctor. Again, I feel like that's because of the novelty of it being the 50th story. I really enjoy Day of the Doctor. Probably more than some other people do. But I don't really think, as a story, it's top 5 of all time, all of Doctor Who. I can't say I agree with that. Caves of Androzani and Genesis of the Daleks, I don't really have any issues with. World Enough and Time and Dr. Falls, I do absolutely love. I think it deserves top 10. Number 2 for me is probably a bit too high, but I can understand why it's there. And Heaven Sent, while I probably wouldn't rank it as my all-time favourite, I understand why it's there. It is a very well-crafted piece of TV. I probably wouldn't put it there, but hey-ho. It's very well made, I'll give it that, and had some great scenes, so fair enough. RTD revealed that the Whoniverse ident will refresh with new eras and representation of those that missed out, depending on the project, much in a similar way to what happens with the Marvel logo, which is very cool. I'm glad about that because there isn't a single Moffat rep on the Whoniverse logo yet. I mean, you get Missy, but you don't get Smith or Capaldi on there, and obviously you don't get like any of the 80s Doctors on there either. So I'm glad that they'll be swapped out on occasion. That's very fun. And also RTD confirmed that the mysterious character walking into the Emporium is Charlie DeMello playing Charles Banerjee in The Giggle. I don't actually know much about Charles Banerjee. Is he to do with John Logie Baird? Let me know in the comments below. I'm actually not sure. He's just a new character. And then finally, I just wanted to show this preview of the next issue. Ncuti Gatwa is the Doctor. 7th of December. It'll come out just before, I think, The Giggle. And obviously it's going to be covering the Ncuti Gatwa Christmas special, no doubt, as well. Lots of exciting stuff to come. As I say, be sure to go out and support the magazine. There's so much stuff in it this issue. I have barely even scratched the surface of all the stuff that I read in there. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. Go and purchase it, go and pick it up. And also, before I go, I forgot to mention the final installment of Liberation of the Daleks. Like I said, there's so much going on in this month's DWM. I have to say, as a resolution, I found it to be a bit of a damp squib. You know, we've been waiting 14 months to see what this story was about and how it would resolve. And I have to say the ending did feel quite rushed and insubstantial to me. Obviously, I know it's a comic story and you were never going to get like this big ending, but I don't know, I was just expecting a little bit more. One thing I will say without getting into too many spoilers is the 13th Doctor's Sonic gets destroyed again. The Doctor basically rebuilds it to resolve one of the things going on, and it then gets destroyed by a Dalek, which obviously happened in an earlier issue, which is just quite funny, really. But yeah, I found Liberation of the Dalek overall, the ending, to be a little bit unsatisfying. as someone who's been keeping up with it throughout all of these GBM issues. But there we are. Maybe it'll work better as one graphic novel rather than having to wait each month to see how, each cliffhanger resolves. But I can't lie, I was slightly disappointed. But hey ho. But like this video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you do, and I'll see you later.